Hi friends, I'm Prairie Vintage Jewelry. My name is Linda and I'm an energy reader here on YouTube. And today's video is about why is feeling empty in a relationship a good thing. Now before you this video, that's not the end result of where you want to be in a relationship, clearly, because if you're feeling empty, something is not right. So when you're feeling empty in a relationship, it is your self sounding the alarm bells telling you that something is off. Okay, so why this is a good thing is because there are a lot of people who go through relationships and I'm talking about like intimate relationships with their partner and going through a state of complacency or going through a state of doing motions or going through a state of not truly living or understanding their true self. So when you start feeling empty, or when you recognize more so that there is a feeling of emptiness within you, you are now closer to understanding your true self. You are no longer covering up. You are no longer detached from your emotions. So when you're feeling empty, you're more aligned to what feels right for you. Now, it's interesting because you always hear the line that, nobody else can bring you fulfillment and it is found from within. So I was always torn with that whole saying because it's like, okay, you want to be in a relationship with somebody, clearly, if you've chosen to be with somebody. And if this person is not fulfilling you in some sort of way, you continuously feel an empty feeling. So that should be a warning within yourself to take a look at where that emptiness is coming from. Now, I don't believe that every relationship needs to be a lesson learned, okay? And I think as a spiritual society, especially if you're going through a twin flame journey, you're taking these relationships or these experiences as a way to heal yourself and as lessons, and to go back looking at your traumas and trying to make sense of all that, which is great to do because it's a form of healing. However, I feel that everybody deserves to be happy regardless of traumatic pasts or whatever. And there's an innate desire within us to be happy with another. So before people shame people for saying, well, if it takes somebody else to make you feel fulfilled, then you're clearly going into a relationship for the wrong reason. Now, epiphany moment for me, okay? Because I feel like, am I sufficient on my own? I feel I've been sufficient on my own, but I was very detached from my emotions. And although I'm an emotional being and I'm very no filter, because I felt I could take an energy, feel the energy, and then regurgitate whatever through my filter of Linda into the world. And that always came naturally for me. So hence I would connect that with I am in tune with feeling. But the energy that I'm feeling or putting through my filtration system, if you were, is what's happening around me, and I'm processing it. Now, what's happening around me and outside of me is all a manifestation of my own perception, of my own reality, of what I'm creating. So I'm creating what it is that I am envisioning and manifesting in front of me. So in order for the exterior to change, the interior needs to be acknowledged and changed. And Lucy tends to agree because he's meowing. So let me get back on track because I know that's a lot to bite off and to recognize. And I'd like to think that I can really kind of articulate something in layman's terms to understand. Okay, so you understand, I'm sure, if you watch, tarot readings and you watch my video, that you want to be fulfilled outside of depending on a relationship to bring you fulfillment. But I bet you also feel as intensely that there is a desire to share with another person to reach some sort of fulfillment, okay? And to deny ourselves and say something's wrong or something's broken because I don't feel, fulfilled or whatever, when I am alone, or I'm also feeling empty when I'm with somebody who isn't outputting whatever it is that I need. So the identification here is that the person you're bringing in, for one, is a lot of responsibility to put on another to bring you fulfillment, okay? And I recognize through things, my own experience, my own relationships, things I would say, like, why am I feeling empty? And then I'm like, I'm the one feeling empty, but I'm putting it out there as though this other person or this connection or this experience I'm having is bringing me emptiness. However, what I've recognized is, why am I feeling emptiness here, And the reason I'm feeling this emptiness is why this energy vibration, this person, these people, the circumstances now come towards me to be a reflection of that emptiness in which I had. Now, these are words. So when I say emptiness, it wasn't that I was like moping around feeling empty. In fact, I felt very ambitious. I felt very directed. I felt very in charge and in control, and I didn't feel an emptiness. However, my relationships were empty because of a feeling that was disconnected, and that only lied within myself. So it took me having my spiritual awakening of dropping ego and losing all sense of identity of who I built myself to be. And you can watch my other videos in regards to what that looked like, because yes, it was me aligning to a self that I programmed or went along with programming of my upbringing in order to prove to myself a something, or to live in a certain way to achieve a certain something. But once I recognized that I don't need to prove to myself or do what it is that I was doing, and I just need to be in the moment and present, then I had a shift in perception. Now, this is very slow and gradual because I drop ego and attachment. It's like I'm still not at my, living out my full purpose, although I am trying to live in the moment, in the present, and be real. It's like I still have it, my exterior world still hasn't aligned to what I'm feeling inside, and relationships still feel empty. And even more so because now I'm more aligned with who I am no longer. So if you follow, now I'm no longer my ego or who I said I was or who I was in the past or my old self. It's shed, and now I'm in a neutral state. So now my environment is still trying to calibrate to who I am and what I'm trying to build for myself, because the 3D world takes a while to catch up to what we're actually manifesting or bringing into our reality. So in saying all this, my neutral state now is much closer to who I am, although I'm still learning a lot about my likes and my dislikes, and with my experience of the past to really understand who I am. But I feel being neutral is still more aligned with my authentic self than me being my programmed self or who I thought I had to be. So let's go back to the emptiness in the relationship. So when you're with somebody and you feel a sense of emptiness, or you still feel like something is missing, or that you're not fulfilled, then you should ask yourself, where within yourself is there a misalignment? Okay, because for all of us, it may lie somewhere else within us that is triggering those feelings around another person. Because again, we would agree another person shouldn't carry the weight of bringing us fulfillment or happiness. Although once we are fulfilled and happy from the inside, we want to be in a relationship with somebody who adds value and doesn't take away value from that. So if we're having to bend, if we're having to force, if we're having to sacrifice pieces of ourselves in which we are content with and which bring us joy and happiness, then we are not aligned with the right people, or there's something within us that tells us that we have to give up parts of ourselves in order to be happy. Now, in my case, going back to relationships that felt empty, it was like a external seeking for, well, there has to be a relationship that brings fulfillment, right? And especially if I feel already fulfilled within myself, or feeling that I think I'm fulfilled and I know what I want and I'm striving. But the point being is, you're striving external to yourself to find something you will never find. And that the relationships around you, now I'm not saying the relationship that's existing in your life today is not causing emptiness. What I am saying is the emptiness is caused from within you, or still lies somewhere within you. Therefore, your relationship mirrors that back to you, so you become aware of it. And once you do, these relationships will either fall away, or you start to see the relationship in a different way, in which relationships could get better, relationship could just fall away because it no longer serves its purpose. Now, I really want to emphasize the part here where, we're kind of told if we're not fulfilled within ourselves, then we shouldn't be, or we cannot find happiness within a relationship. And I do feel like, people can bring other people happiness, definitely. And I do believe that we kind of choose whatever lessons we want to go through in this lifetime. But I don't feel that any sole other person or anything external to us is the key responsible thing that's going to make us find within us the fulfillment that we're seeking. So we might forever be seeking something external that can only ever be found within us. So if we're in a relationship where we're feeling emptiness, we can perceive it now to be, what within me is feeling this disconnect, and why am I feeling this disconnect? Am I being authentic with my truth of what it is that I want and makes me happy? Selfishly putting it out there and saying, what is going to make me happy? What is it that I need for myself, right? And is it going against or not aligned with this relationship? Because there must be something in this relationship that isn't aligned to that. And so we're trying to make it fit, or we're trying to sacrifice or compromise or do something here in order to make it work. But our alarm bells are going off saying, this isn't aligned with your authentic self. This person, this situation, this experience that you're going along with is not aligned with what it is you truly desire. And what it is you truly desire will feel differently. But how will you ever know what it is you truly deserve or desire if you haven't uncovered or revealed that within yourself? So you're constantly seeking for what that is externally, hence bringing in more empty type relationships. Now, I say it's a good thing, because if you didn't have this alarm bell, so to speak, then you would continuously stay in relationships that weren't bringing you abundance, weren't bringing you fulfillment. So it's kind of like an alarm on the oven, like the pizza's ready, or else the pizza would burn. So if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you're feeling empty, somewhere inside yourself is saying there's something misaligned within this relationship. And instead of poking at that person, or pointing, I should say, external to who you're with, you would then look and say, well, because of this mirrored relationship that I've manifested and created and perceive in front of me, my reality, it's myself telling me something is off. And what is this something? And I think we could get really lost in words rather than feeling, because although I always understood you have to be fulfilled within yourself before you can show up within a connection, it made sense to me in words, but I never really experienced what that was saying. And it was really looking at myself and saying, where am I detached from understanding what it is that I want? Because a lot of times people do not know what it is that they want. And when they're getting something they don't want, it feels off. It feels misaligned. So that's where the emptiness comes. That's the alarm bells, because somewhere within you, there is your knowing, your true authentic self that's always been and has been. So it's allowing you to recognize, hey, something's off here. Take a look and try to find what that is, and it can't be like a blanket emptiness. You can't say, well, because I was feeling empty from within. I mean, that just sounds like a sentence statement, but it's like, what from within was making you feel empty outside of this connection? So for example, like I said, being neutral allowed me to be closer to my authentic self, but allowed me to recognize when something was right off. So if I was in a connection where I wasn't getting the respect that I felt I deserved. Now, again, we are in awareness that we deserve some sort of respect. So you could say, well, then you weren't really empty because you had a recognition that you deserved respect. It's like, yes, there was a recognition there, but I'm still in this connection in which I'm wanting respect, or I'm needing some sort of respect. So when I'm not getting it, I feel an emptiness in this relationship. I feel a disconnect coming from this relationship, but it's really stemming from me saying your true self knows you're worthy of respect. Your true self knows you're worthy of attention. So you can know it, but you could still put yourself in situations where you're settling, or where you're compromising, or where you're allowing yourself to put up with or keep these low vibrational things around you. So once you take a look at, I know I deserve it, so therefore my outside world needs to support it, but you're not seeking it from your external world, because you already know from within that you are worthy outside of that connection. You already know that you're worthy or loving or all the things that you want from a relationship. It's already from within. Then it becomes recognizing when we're bringing in a vibration that doesn't line up, it's our own decision. It's our own, what we wanted to experience in that moment, to remind us to say, are we then complacent or putting up with or allowing these things in our life? And if we are, why are we doing this? To look deeper and say, I feel worthy and I know I'm worthy, and outside of this I am, and now here comes something that makes me feel, or brings about in me some unworthiness feeling. Why is that? And that most likely is some unresolved area within yourself that needs to be explored, or at least understood. Now, like I mentioned in my last videos, I don't feel like we need to spend a whole bunch of time healing ourselves from past wounds, or spend a whole bunch of time in a past that was painful, because all that's doing is taking away from this present moment. And I feel like if we want to have happiness, if we understand we are happiness and we are worthy of such things, then in this present moment, it is up to us to live that truth right now. It doesn't matter whether we did in the past. The past is no longer reality. I mean, it exists simultaneously within this life, within this timeline, past, present, and future. But the only moment we really have is this present moment, this moment to really make something out of this present time. We cannot go to the past. We cannot interject ourselves, and if we carry it, we're carrying a weight of something that no longer belongs to us. So I think it's good to recognize things within ourselves, but I think it helps for us to be more recognizing in this present moment what feels off and what feels like it supports us, because wanting to be in a connection to bring out more happiness, I don't think there should be anything wrong with that. I think people should be intimate and fulfilled within themselves and be allowed to want to expand on that with another individual who is also fairly balanced. So if you are balanced independently, then you're bringing in the right type of balanced individuals that can add value to your existence, rather than seeking for energies or people or experiences that are going to fill gaps within you, because I don't feel that there are gaps within you, and the only gaps you may feel are areas of yourself that you haven't uncovered, shadow slides of yourself that you haven't asked yourself why it feels like there's a gap, or why is it empty. It is not stemming from an outside source or person, and if those people are still around, they're just mirroring back to you exactly the alarm bell within yourself to go discover what that is. And like I said, once you start to perceive it differently, and once you identify that I'm not empty in this relationship, I am empty within a part of me that needs discovering, and once you see what that is, you can, like I said, vibrate on a different level, which brings a different vibrational external environment around you. Could be the same relationship that might elevate higher, because now you're engaging differently, you're now seeing it differently, you're now able to experience it through different eyes, which is no longer emptied. Or it could be very blatant and apparent to you that what it is that you were now uncovered within yourself, that this relationship is a stepping stone into a greater one that is more aligned to who you are. But either which way, you're shifting out of that. You're no longer gonna settle, or you're no longer gonna cover up or compromise in a way that's going to silence a big truth of yourself. And the big truth is that you deserve to be whole and complete, and your body knows when you're not. And you may feel like, if you're like me and you want to compromise and you want to be loving and you want to be giving, and you don't want to be like, it's all about me, because how would I ever be compromising in a relationship? Because I wouldn't want to be with somebody who is very self-serving or solely focused on self, that I get, I would just assume I would get leftovers, or be like left behind in some sort of way. But at the same time, that is actually not the reality here. The reality is somebody needs to fully feel whole within themselves, fully needs to love themselves, not compromise on things that matter to themselves in order to come together. And you shouldn't be shamed into feeling like you want to give, like you want to reciprocate, you want to have an equal exchange here. It doesn't take away from who you are. But if you remove this individual, are you whole and complete? Are you whole and complete within yourself? Are you feeling like you could sustain a happiness within yourself, like there is no missing parts, like you're completely fulfilled? And that's difficult to do, especially if you're externally seeking. But then that's the alarm bell saying, okay, where are there gaps, and why are there gaps, and how do we find the gaps? And really asking spirit, asking our our angels to help us to see where these gaps are, to identify parts of ourselves, because we are whole. We're just buried in the subconscious, either through traumas or through ego and us telling ourselves or hiding parts of ourselves that we don't want to see out of fear. But once we're asking to see it, I believe it will be revealed. Those who ask, those who want to see, the universe reveals. It no longer hides it. And once it's revealed, there's no unseeing it. You recognize where you were empty, and it had nothing to do with that relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that that person is aligned with your new vibration, but you can then say, I've filled this gap of emptiness that I thought was coming from this relationship or this connection. And it was really some trauma within me, somewhere of seeing it within me, where I was not speaking my truth, or I was trying to shove down or do something here that wasn't aligned with my authentic self, in order to either keep the relationship or in order to make something fit, or feel like you're compromising, or feel like you're doing the right thing again. But the right thing would be to look at yourself and And I always felt I had a healthy love of self. So when I'd hear, people who'd say, the reason you're maybe empty in a relationship is because you feel you're unworthy, or you don't love yourself, or there's something there, it on the surface, it just never really made a whole lot of sense, because I would say I love myself, and I still feel I always have loved myself. But where there was the missing gap was that you can love oneself and feel worthy, but if you're feeling empty in a relationship, or a gap, or something's missing, or something feels off, that's an alarm bell saying something's off within you. And it doesn't have to be you're completely unworthy, or you're completely looking externally for a complete fulfillment, but for whatever that piece is that's hidden, that's in the shadow, that's in your subconscious, that's coming out saying something's off because I need this. And it's okay to need something, and it's finding it within you and saying, whatever it is that I'm needing as a whole human, I can find that within myself. I no longer seek external validation, but it's something you're needing in order for it to be recognized within you. We need love, we need intimacy, we need bonding. And once we recognize and accept it from within and say, I am intimate with myself, I am bonding with myself, I am forgiving of myself, I am accepting of who I am and my traumas and my bad decisions and all the things that I am, and I can be honest, then there is no more gaps in darkness. So now when you come together in a relationship, you no longer feel those empty feelings, of course, unless that person is not aligned, which I don't think you'd be bringing into your awareness, because those people are there because it's a mirror of your state. It's a reflection of what you're needing to experience in that moment. So ask yourself, are you happy in your existing relationship fully and completely? And if you are, that might mean that you've done enough internal work for you to be fully fulfilled. And now we could meet people that bring a complete fulfillment, and then you remove them, and then you feel an emptiness. So you can ask yourself then, were you filling this with an external source? And where can you find that within yourself? Because that could be a lesson on the flip side, where you're feeling very fulfilled and you're feeling these emotions, but when that person is removed, or when you're no longer in that state, it's like you feel upside down. So I can't talk to that one so much, because the only one I could speak to is being in a relationship where something feels off, or something feels like I'm missing. And maybe that is more the divine feminine, because we are the givers, and we come from a different place than the divine masculine. And I'm not saying one's right or wrong, but maybe, it's more common within divine. I'm just talking out loud here, I don't know. But then most divine masculines might, take whatever relationship for granted. And if their divine feminine leaves, and this is why I think in a lot of relationships, the woman stays and stays and stays until she just had enough and goes. And that kind of triggers, just the way the energetic flow goes, triggers the divine masculine to then recognize that he was getting some sort of fulfillment, some sort of dark gap that was being fulfilled by his divine feminine, and the divine feminine might be seeking and staying, trying to cover up or find the gap, but always be expressing an emptiness or a desire to seek more, or try to bend and accommodate, because clearly it's about her needing to do something different in order to bring about a different reality. But it's like, no, I don't feel we need to bend. I don't feel we need to dance or force, or, I don't even feel we need to sacrifice any piece of us. And even a compromise at most, like, I think compromises could be like, okay, do you want to have chicken or shrimp for dinner? That's a compromise, because you don't like shrimp, but you'll have it every once in a while because your spouse likes it. But I don't think a compromise is, where somebody takes their opinion of something that's important to you, like, let's say marriage, if marriage is important to you, right? If that's something that's important to you for whatever reason, you can ask yourself and do the work and say, is this, a perceived program that has been instilled in me that getting the laws involved in my happiness is something that's important to me. And if you feel at your core self that it is, and you're with somebody who does not, then that's misaligned. But you cannot force yourself to feel anything different. So that is something that you're not willing to compromise or bend on because it matters to you on a fundamental level. Now, I do feel like if everyone was able to get to their core self and a neutral state, they would understand themselves a lot better than they are when they're in a relationship of pretend or in a relationship of bend and compromise and whatever dance they're doing. Because I feel like when we're in a neutral state, which is we shed our ego, we go through our spiritual awakening, we understand that we're not our identity of who we've committed our careers to, or, as a mother, as a child, as a wife, as whoever, we're so much more than that. So I feel if people recognize this and they're in the present moment, I feel like our truths and our reality at a fundamental level would be so much more aligned. I don't think that the legal definition of a marriage would be as important, either which way. And you could probably see more aligned. And that's why when you're in that state and you vibrate in that state, you bring somebody else in that state who has done the work, who can be in a neutral state where the fundamentals of love is really pure. And it's not a huge varying degree. I mean, love is a pure sense of love, right? Like, we know what it is to be loved. That is very rudimentary. So those rudimentary fundamentals, if you will, are needed and wanted and desired and are found within our true self. It is something that is felt without having to try. It is something we're gifted just by being born. So if you have somebody else who carries that and understands that within themselves, it adds to two people adding to and enriching each other's lives, in a very beautiful, magical dance of divine masculine, divine feminine. But I don't think we should feel bad for wanting, because I feel it is a very natural state for wanting to have a relationship that nurtures and supports that in us, because that feels good. I think that's healthy. I don't think it's healthy to say you need to be happy alone or you need to be independent and whole alone. It's like, yes, you should feel content alone or whole alone, because you understand that everything you need is within you, that this isn't something you're going to find external from yourself, but you are allowed to feel that you want to experience your wholeness, your fulfillment, your true self and being with another who is also in that state. I think that's a beautiful thing, and that might explain things a lot better without me repeating. But yeah, I just think, for me, the epiphany was connecting the dots, because we say the words, but it's very difficult to understand. And in the spiritual community, I keep bringing about, the ways that we tell ourselves we have to be, or that we haven't reached a certain state of enlightenment or acceptance or this or that. And the noise can create all sorts of complexes. And when the mind gets involved, then we make up stories, and we could get further down the rabbit hole and further depressed and further not happy, that we have to fix all our traumas and we got to do all this shadow work and we have to understand. And some things are just so buried in the subconscious from even our ancestors and our past, familial line down the past, that we have no idea why we're even carrying what we're carrying. But beneath all that junk, beneath all that programming, beneath all of the cover-ups, there is a true authentic self. And the closer we get to that, and we understand and accept that that is who we are, then our external world starts to reflect that, and we don't feel empty anymore. But if you are feeling empty, I think that's a good sign that your internal clock, or your internal alarm, I guess, is going off, and it is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, which is, hello, you should be taking a look within and really trying to uncover what that is, without shame. It is a good thing. You don't want to burn the pizza, right? So anyway, that's my video for you guys today. I hope I explained it well. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. And nobody's journey is alike. So you might have reached your conclusion the way you did. And I do not condone anyone staying in an empty type relationship, but I also don't shame somebody having to go through uncovering this lesson time and time again until they hit that light bulb moment. And if you have, and you're in a cyclical pattern, or if you continuously come across these empty type relationships, I don't think you should feel bad. I think you chose to have experiences that you were going to go through in order for you to finally click and say, okay, now I can understand and see why this has happened, but at any point you can change it. Your reality is right now in the present. What you do right now in the present is what's going to form what it is that you want. You cannot change the past. What you do right now, what you're in control of, you have control right now of what it is that you're bringing into your life, and that's a lot of power. And some people don't want all that power because it's easier to blame external. It's easier to blame things or find fault external, because once we know that we're responsible and we hold that, it's a big thing to carry, but it's also a beautiful thing, because then you're really able to manifest and bring in a fullness. All right, so I hope this helped you, and I will see you soon. Bye.